Welcome, Miracles Tribe members and Miracles Attraction community on Facebook. I'm Teresa McGallagher, joined here with my business partner, Carly Jett Hardy. And today we have a very unique and interesting guest for you. He's JClay, and Carly will tell you all about him.
Thank you, Teresa. I'm happy to be here today, and it really is a treat to have JClay, and his first name is also Jelani, if you're finding him on Facebook, with us. Uh, yes, he has been an associate of Teresa's, and we've kind of watched from afar and just feel very fortunate to have you with us today. And on his website, JClay says that I make conscious rap songs that heal you. I expose the false beliefs that have limited your growth. This is why you recognize what you hear as the truth. The mind controls the body, so healing is just a matter of correcting your perception. And so he will share his personal story today of what brought him to his work in the world and to the miracles and to finding the truth himself. So he said that we have been led to a door that holds the answers. These are answers that we've all sought since our birth. So with those beautiful words, I turn it over to you, JClay, to
Thank
tell
you
your
for having me.
story.
Hey, I've been watching the show previous to this, and I've been loving all the guests, loving how everybody came to A Course in Miracles, and the impact. Like it's truly that powerful. Well, I won't say powerful, but you know what I'm saying. But I'll get started. So my story, as a kid, I always loved music. Music has been just in me. I've always enjoyed playing it, listening, trying to break down different things. So my story of the spiritual is partly music based, but also I didn't grow up in a family that necessarily went to church or was very religious, but I always believed in God. And even so, like I had a relationship with God that I couldn't explain, but I've always talked to God over the years. And so my journey as I got older, around maybe high school, I said to myself that, man, I'm always going to God when I need help, when I'm scared and I'm fearful, and I only come to Him during these times. This has to change. You know, relationships don't work like that. If you always say, "Hey, come here when you need me," you know, when I need help. So I said, well, the least I can do is read His story, because I figured the Bible was His story, was to start there. So I sought to read the Bible over the next few years. So I started off strong, maybe my senior year in high school, but then I stopped for a while, picked it back up years later in college. And my idea was just read a chapter a day, read a chapter a day. And eventually I finished it. So in me coming to an understanding of the Bible, I still had a lot of questions. And I've always been a curious kid. I wanted to know why things are how they are. So I would go to my friends that grew up in the church. I would ask them certain questions. They would say, "Oh, you can't ask that. You shouldn't ask that," or they couldn't answer it. And I even noticed, like, I'm not picking on the Bible in any way. Hopefully it doesn't come off as that. But I noticed inconsistencies within it that I couldn't find answers to. So I was always looking and even kind of giving my own meaning to things in between the gaps. And so I was always reading, trying to understand the human psyche. And I remember I came across there are three things that stood out to me in the Bible. It said, "Now man is like us, knowing both good and evil." It's also said, I can't remember the quotes, but it had to do with we and our and us, instead of like God or I and you. And I was like, well, who are the us? Who are the we? So before Course in Miracles, what I kind of put together or I thought was the truth at the time, that, well, maybe God linked up with his enemy, but because He's so good, He was able to look past all of that and He created this world. So we're a mixture of both good and bad. But it was still some unanswered questions, like, now because of the knowledge of good and evil, we would die, but without that knowledge, we wouldn't die. And it was it was just a lot of unanswered questions. So but I never gave up hope. I always was open to new ideas. On YouTube, there was an ASMR artist that I followed, and she would speak about different spiritual things. And I remember in the beginning, just from my perspective, it kind of seemed like nonsense, like she was trying to, find herself. But then somewhere along the way, she started touching on things that sounded very true, and some of the things that I was kind of coming to as well. And so it piqued my interest. So on her video, she had pointed out to other channels that she followed that had a spiritual backing behind it. And one was, her name is Papilica ASMR. She read a quote from a book called Jesus, My Autobiography. So at this time, I already, regarded Jesus as highly because he just seemed like a very laid back person in the Bible. Like, anything goes. If you want to do that, fine, do it. There's no need to worry. Ye of little faith, you're good. So when I heard the idea of the book Jesus, My Autobiography, I thought, how? Let me look up what autobiography means. Maybe I have it wrong. So I looked it up, and I was like, no, this is what I thought it meant. So she read an excerpt where Jesus described how the process when he became enlightened, so to speak, when the baptism. And when I heard it, it sounded like truth. It was no way I could refute it. And I was wondering, I was like, okay, let me just get the book and find out. So I bought the book. I read it in a day because it was that profound. Like it's something about the truth that you just know it when you hear it. And I couldn't argue it. Like I like to argue with myself in my mind and argue against points just to see the other side. But I couldn't. It was nothing I could say to this. And in the book, Jesus, My Autobiography, he referenced A Course in Miracles. He said, this is why I made this course. And I said, wait a minute, let me look at this book. So I looked at the author, I looked at the publisher, was not the same at all. It had nothing to do with the book. And it opened my mind to even the idea of channeling things and that, like God is not regulated to a book. He's not regulated to an entity, to anything that can be defined. And it opened my mind to what I thought was not possible. And that ultimately led me to the Course in Miracles. So this was about maybe 3 years ago, I would say. So I started reading the Course in Miracles. And around the same time, I was working at NASA. So I left that part out. I left out a lot, actually. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit before I get into the course. So I've always known I wanted to do music. When I got out of college, I went to college for computer science because everybody said, you're smart, you got to get a degree, have something to fall back on. So I just did it just because. And in that, at college, I started making music. I started producing for other artists. I even started making music myself. And so along this whole road, when I started working at NASA after college, I've been trying to make it in the music business. So in me trying to make it in the music business, we had a lot of successes and failures, but the failures were so, the perceived failures seemed so huge at the time because there was no way to explain it. Like everything would be going right. And then it seemed like divine intervention that it went wrong. And I just could not understand it. I would always ask myself, what am I trying to learn? What's the lesson here, God? And just to give an example, as an artist, you want to make it on the radio. So we did all the promotions in our city to get in good with the radio director, the program director at the radio stations. And in 2 different instances, the program director said, okay, you are next. You and your group, we're going to put you on. In one case, the program director died. Like, what? So in another case, like years later, the program director got fired. What? And this was like everything I was working for. And I couldn't understand the lessons. I mean, I do now, but at the time it was just, I knew that I was missing a big chunk. And so that led me to keep coming back to God, wanting to seeking these answers. So okay, let's get back to 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I'm reading the Course in Miracles. I'm reading it slow because, as you know, every line is like endless amounts of truth. And so I'm getting it. And at the same time, I joined a mastermind group. And for those that don't know, a mastermind group is where two or more minds come together for the purpose of just having a mind whose intelligence is multiplied greater than the sum of the two or more minds. And we would just share ideas to help people along their careers towards success. And so in this group, I was wondering, should I share the concepts of A Course in Miracles? Because I really believed in them, and I couldn't see apart from them at the time. Not apart, like it was hard to not see the effects of not understanding it that it had on people and how much they were suffering. And so like my first challenge was to just really accept it and see if I could share this with others and how they would react. So I talked with my best friend that I do the show Perfect Mode with. He was like, nah, I don't think you should share it. They're not ready. I did it anyway. I shared it, and it changed the whole dynamic of the group. Now we were starting to lead with love. We were trying to make sure that all of our actions were in line with love. And I even told them about the book then and read quotes, but they weren't really, ready to accept it. But at the same time, me doing my research, I realized that people, okay, let me backtrack. I made an assumption that because somebody had the book, A Course in Miracles, they understood it. They were fine. They were good. So in me trying to even teach it, accepting that I have to be a teacher, not have to, but it's better to you teach what you learn what you teach. And me accepting that, I knew that I had just to find an audience that can really listen to this, but I never thought that people that's already reading the Course in Miracles, they need help too. Like it's not once you read it, you're good, you're perfect, you're enlightened, none of that. So in that, I was thinking, okay, I'm good at music. I've made music that helps kids learn as well. That's another business that's kind of been put to the side because of this. I was wondering, could I do the same thing with the lessons I'm learning from A Course in Miracles and these deep life lessons, but do it in such a way that it can be easily received, that it can be understood, and that it's not corny. There's a tendency in when you make a positive song that it might not be the best song ever. Like, we can do it, yay! And it's not that good. So I remember I started making a few songs. I let a few people hear, and they're like, "Yeah, this is good." So I got a thought in my head that replayed, and I to this day I believe it was God. I never heard anything so clearly that said, "Just finish the album," and it just replayed and replayed. And this was probably 2018 at this point, or maybe it's 2018. And so in November of 2018, I took a trip to London. And while I was in London, I figured nobody knows me. I can test out the music where it's of its own merit and see if it helps people, even if it's because I do mention God, and I know sometimes everybody's not susceptible to hearing things about God, especially given their beliefs. So I performed the song at an open mic, and the energy changed. Like, it was an overwhelmingly great response. So much so that at the end of the show, the host came to me. He said, "Do you see all of what's going on right now?" I said, "Yeah." What do you mean? He said, "He's been coming to these things, hosting a lot, but the artists, they just kind of do their thing and leave. But everybody brought their best, I guess, presence." Like he said, it elevated, and he said, "You did that." And of course, I didn't take it as I did that. Like, this is an extension of God's love. But it showed me how powerful that this music could be, given multiple backgrounds. Like, I don't know if you've been to London, but it's one of the most diverse places ever. Cultures, all mixed cultures everywhere, and they all received it well. So then it was like, okay, I have something here. Let me start, putting it out, testing it with different people, and having the strength to say that this can heal you. Because again, there's even though you might understand it, you might learn from the course, you might not fully accept it yourself, like the power in it. But the funny thing was, in me doing this, it allowed me to accept it. So it's like I had to do this for me to accept it. The music that I've been making has helped me just as much as I'm hoping that it will help other people. There have been plenty of times that I've been in my own mind and doubting things, but then I'll listen to the songs to try to make sure it's mixed right and it's arranged perfectly. that it'll end up mentoring to me. And and I can't even fully take I guess claim for it. And I don't want to say that I channeled it, but it was I guess just being in this space. So you know the effect that A Course in Miracles has on you. Like it changes your whole life. It changes your relationships. And it's cool because you can also test certain things. Like you can test being in conflicting situations where it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's a joy. You know, it's like, oh, this is what I'm holding on to now. Thank you for showing me this. Thank you for making me mad right now. You didn't make me mad. Just my thoughts made me mad. Thank you for showing me this. And that's one of the biggest changes that I can say. And yeah, I'm enjoying where life is taking me. I've accepted also that I don't know anything, and I've spent so long trying to go toward this path of what I thought success was, but I see that it's no fun anyway. Like we're just here.
Thank you, Jelani. So you said you were working at NASA, and we didn't mention that he's located in Houston, Texas. And did you stop working there when you started putting all your energy into music, or what happened?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, you're right. So as I said briefly, I made me and my best friend, we have a company called Every Child Wins, where we were making kids music to help them learn faster, because you know with music you can just kind of memorize things and easily, and if you can put lessons in the songs, they can learn quickly. So we were doing that. We were getting bigger in that. It was also a bigger money maker than the typical music we were trying to make it as. You know, the typical hip hop, the ego based hip hop. So we were like, yeah, let's focus on that. So at a time around when I found A Course in Miracles, it was after I was in my most depressed state, which didn't last that long. But I had made a plan to understand like what made me depressed. I had ended up blaming it all on money. Because money was the problem. If I had money, I could quit my job that I didn't want to go to all the time. Which I mean, it was a good job. It wasn't meant for me. So I learned money. I saved up a lot of money for the next 2 years. And I got to a place where, okay, it looks like I can quit my job and now I can focus on Every Child Wins. So this was 2019, at the point when I'm already a year in A Course in Miracles. I'm already making music for this album, but I was still thinking, okay, I need to chase this money for Every Child Wins, because it's a lot of kids, they can use this, and it's still a good product. But because I knew that if I put my attention to it, I can make enough money from it that it can sustain me for quitting my job. So I kind of joke that God tricked me to quit my job because of Every Child Wins. Once I quit my job, I haven't really focused on that at all. It's been all about this music, because I've been seeing the reaction that it's been having on people that hear it, and how they've just been altering their perception even slightly, that it just has a profound difference. So so I quit in March of 2019, and I've been doing music full time ever since.
That's fabulous. So I want to tell all of our listeners that you can find Jelani on his website, JClay.org. You can listen to his music there, and you can also purchase products from Every Child Wins, correct there?
Yes.
And check out his show every Sunday morning on Facebook, Perfect Mode, with his friend Troy. And anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Oh, yes. So the album that I told you about, it is finished. I actually just announced it today, and you'll see it on my website. And it's every song, every lyric is kind of meant to guide you from how you see the world to understanding what forgiveness is. But it's different. Like there's something about music that makes it cool, that makes it where you can just accept it because it is in song. And so it's like a trick in itself, but because it's made with every word in line with truth, I feel like it's really a big help, and is going to help a lot of people. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, music is definitely a higher vibration, I think. And also check out Jelani on LinkedIn. He's got some great music, philosophy, and rap there.
Thank you.
Congratulations on finishing that album. That's a huge Just a huge win and great for us to be able to have that. So
Yes, thank you.
very appreciative of you blending the music and the truths in A Course in Miracles.
And we'll post the link to your website below this in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
best of luck with your musical career.
Take care.
Bye.